Hello. In this video, we're just going to be practicing using fractions. Okay. So if we look at number 1 here, we want to do 2.5 divided by a half. Here's the thing, when you multiply or divide by mixed numbers or fractions period, you need to be actually in improper or proper form. So if you have something like this with a mixed number, you need to convert it into an improper fraction. And remember, to do that, we take this 2 here, multiply by the denominator, so that's 4, and add on the numerator, which gives us 5. So that's actually 5 halves divided by a half. Now, this is just a regular division problem. Notice that because it's division, we take the first one, write it down, and change the division to multiplication. And then we take the reciprocal, or the way that I like to say it, the reciprocal of the second. And that gives us 2 over 1. And then you just multiply like normal. Notice that there's a 2 here and a 2 here. They cancel each other, a 1 and a 1. Now if you multiply, 5 times 1 is 5, and 1 times 1 is 1. So it gives you 5 over 1. But you're not done, because you can never leave anything over 1. So that just gives us that just gives us 5. Okay, look at number 2 here. We have 3 and 2/5 plus 1/3. There are a couple of different ways we can do this, depending on how you want your answer. If you want your answer in improper form, you can do exactly what we did here. Now if you want it in proper form, you can do this in a vertical method, and I'll show you that in a second. But I'm going to do this to where we get an improper answer in the end. So 3 times 5 is 15, plus 2 is 17. So that's 17/5 plus 1/3. Now notice that you do not have a common denominator, which means you need to convert it to fractions that have a common denominator. And the common denominator is 15, which means I need to multiply both the numerator and denominator by 3 for the first fraction, and both the numerator and denominator by 5 for the second fraction. So 3 times 17 is 51. 3 times 5 is 15. Plus 1 times 5 is 5. 3 times 5 is 15. Now we have a common denominator, which means we can add these together. So 51 plus 5 is 56, and 15 plus 15, well, sorry, you don't add the denominators, they just stay the same. So it's just 15. Now the question becomes, does 56 share a common factor with 15? And the answer is no. And if you want to make sure, the factors of 15 are 1, 3, 5, and 15. And none of those share a common factor with 56. You could do this in the calculator. 56 divided by 15 doesn't give you an integer. 56 divided by 5 doesn't give you an integer. 56 divided by 3 doesn't give you an integer. And you don't ever worry about 1. So your answer would be 56 over 15. Now notice that we could convert this back into a mixed number. 56 divided by 15. Well, 15 goes into 56 3 times, because 3 times 15 is 45. And 56 minus 45 is 11. And you'd keep the denominator of 15. And this might make it a little bit easier for you to see that this can't be simplified. 11 and 15 share no common factor. So this is actually the mixed number form of the answer. Now there's another way that we can get this mixed number. What we can do is we can take the 3 and 2/5 and add on vertically the second fraction of 1/3. These two are effectively just an answer, or just a question by itself. So 2/5 plus 1/3. Well, we need a common denominator there. Well, that's just 15 again, so multiply both numerator and denominator by 3. Multiply numerator and denominator by 5. So 2 times 3 gives me 6. 5 times 3 is 15. 1 times 5 is 5. 3 times 5 is 15. Now I have a common denominator. Because I have a common denominator, I can just add the numerators. 6 plus 5 is 11, and keep the denominator of 15. And 3 plus 0 is 3. Now notice that this is a mixed number because 11 is less than 15. If this number here was greater than 15, we would have to convert it back into a mixed number and then add 3 to it. But we don't have to worry about it, so there you go. Okay, let's look at number 3. We have 5½ minus 2, and I'm going to do this one vertically. Notice that this is technically 1 over 2 minus 0 over 2 for the fractions, because there's not a fraction here. There's a 0 here. And because 0 can be written as any denominator, or with any denominator, that means I can take this 2 and use the 2 down here as well. So what's 1 minus 0? Well, that's 1, and keep the denominator the same. And then 5 minus 2 is 3. So 5½ minus 2 is 3½. I strongly recommend just doing it this way because, well, you can do it the other way. Let's just do that. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11. Keep the denominator the same. And then minus 2, but it's not really 2, it's 2 over 1. So we'd multiply both the numerator and denominator by 2. So that gives me 11½ minus 4½. 11 minus 4 is 7 over 2. And this would be the improper form of 3½ Notice 3 times 2 is 6 plus 1 is 7. So it gives me 7/2. Alrighty, well, have fun. I'll see you in a second.